Welcome, welcome, everybody. This is a listen only simulcast here on Twitter Spaces. The actual event is going on in Discord. So if you want to join us interactively and ask questions or whatnot, swing over into the Nouns DAO Discord. I'm going to post a pin here with the exact link to get in there. 1 second. There you go. The pinned tweet has a link directly to the Discord if you'd like to join us there.
I'm here, but I'm just in the different Discords sending this message out to make sure everyone has this link.
All good. On Discord, for some reason, it takes a little while for people to filter their way in, so we'll wait for them.
Hi, Robot Fish Girl. I'm Madrovsky.
Unfortunately, 142 told me just as we were getting started here that we're conflicting with the world call, the world Nouner call, because we had to put our show off for 1 day due to the holiday. So it's like competing calls right now.
Are they having it? And it's like in the Nouner channel here.
Yeah, there's a few people in Voice Nouner right now. Oh well, what can you do? What we need to do is integrate 142's calendar with the Noun Square so that we can like rebroadcast everything for them, and we can also make sure that there's no crazy conflicts as well. Because it sucks to be nounish and want to go to two different things, It's not fair.
Oh yeah. It's often the case now, I believe. I'm gonna start. I just have been screenshotting questions that I've seen. I'm just gonna start adding them to the chat.
Perfect. And we're going to use the chat bubble. If you're in here, we're going to use the chat bubble in the top right. Well, the other chat's gone anyway, I noticed. Oh, no, it's not. So don't use voice, noun, or text. Rather, go into the chat where you see all the people here, Aptoshi, Madrovsky, Robot Fish Girl, etc. At the top right, you'll see a bubble. Let's use that chat. You'll see Aptoshi just posted a screenshot of a question.
We got some cool ones. I loved that the people that initially reached out, it was all international, so that's very cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm hoping Gula Manyao will be able to join us. He said it's quite late in the Philippines right now, so he may not be able to. Oh, he's here. Hey, Gula.
Yes.
Welcome. We'll try to get started soon here, and maybe we can treat your question first since it's late there, and then you can head off to bed if you need to. And again, just coming back to you folks on Twitter, if you are listening on Twitter, that's perfectly fine. But if you do want to have the interactive experience, this call is actually happening on Discord. So check the first pinned tweet there. There's a link over to Discord. Nouns Discord is completely open. All you have to do is click verify in one channel to make sure you're a human being, and then you're in. And then you'll find us in the public channel, the public voice channel. And we're chatting here, and you'll be able to ask questions live. In the meantime, though, if you're only able to join us by Twitter, you can post a comment on that the tweet that I just put there. If you put a tweet underneath it with a question, I'll keep an eye on it, and we'll try to answer them as we go. So I'll wait 1 more minute here and give people a chance to make their way in. Ethan, with a question, I'll keep an eye.
Trying to tune in on my computer at the same time as this, but I do love that we have listeners over there as well. Don't forget, guys, you can come right into the Nouns DAO Discord. I do love the ghost of 99 is actually just 99 on Twitter and then not here with us in the Discord.
That's right. He's here in one realm, but not the other. He's doing live testing for us to make sure that the sound is good.
Nice. Yes, of course.
Give us an emoji if the sound is good, 9. See if he's listening at all. All right, it's 2:05. Let's get the ball rolling here. We've got a few questions loaded up. In the meantime, while we deal with these questions that we got in advance from folks in Discords, please keep in mind if you have any question at all, this is an open forum. Ask us anything. So in some of the past ones, we've had specific subjects that we've covered, like Nounsel and Prop House and how to build for nouns using CC0 assets. Those are some of the key topics that we've gone over in past weeks. But this week we wanted to have just a general open chat, really open it up so that anyone who has any question at all about nouns doesn't feel like it doesn't fit the subject. So really anything goes. Any respectful questions will be answered as best we can. So Aptoshi, why don't we start with one of the questions that we got from Discord?
Yep, let's do it. The Discord question, nouns, Philippines, when?
Awesome. So we did unfortunately lose Gula. He was here a few minutes ago. But anyhow, maybe he'll pop back in a bit. So he was asking when will nouns be in the Philippines, and I answered him and said, well, let's do it, because all of these communities that have popped up around the world, like Nouns DAO Brazil and Nouns DAO Japan, etc., they've all just been started by individuals, right? People who liked what Nouns was doing and wanted to make a difference in their area and sort of do Nounish things where they're from. So really the ball's in your court, Gula. Now, Gula said that he was a bit overwhelmed and didn't know how to start with that, and asked for some help with what would be a good way to get the ball rolling. I'll defer over to you on this, Aptoshi, because you are Aptoshi Nouns on the ground, and I think that's a great way that people can kind of pick up the ball wherever they are in the world and just start with a small activation and go from there. So what advice would you give?
I agree. I think this has been becoming very clear in the ecosystem lately. I know that it was mentioned on the last Nouner call, so I'm excited to hear about the notes and everything that happened on this current one, the all world one that's happening right now at the same time. I hope some of those guys get to make it over here with us as well. But there's obviously a need and a want for IRL to happen, and in probably a bunch of unique ways that not any single one of us is going to know exactly what the right answer is to that. And I think that's kind of reflected in the IRL, maybe on-chain proposals, or things that happen in the Discord that almost, they come up, people aren't necessarily sure what to do with them, and then they kind of disappear. And so to maybe solve this problem, I've definitely been talking with people with OTG in mind of, well, how do we make sure that these things can happen? We don't necessarily need to be title sponsors at any sort of event, but we can be present and on the ground. And so I think the other question that goes right along with the Nouns Philippines when was actually on Twitter from Andrew. Will Nouns DAO be present in all countries, just like Nouns DAO Japan and Nouns DAO Brazil, which Tody just brought up as well? But again, this is going to happen when those proposals come in. So really, technically, it can be a part of any country. If you have an idea or you have a proposal and you're there and can activate it, and you want to gear your proposal more towards an IRL activation, right? So we have people all over the world in Nouns DAO. I think we're just now seeing who people kind of come around, or seeing other maybe Nouners resurface who are more interested in these IRL activations happening as well. But for the most part, as much as we are international, we'll have people on other sides of the world doing metaverse things, or, programming or doing art and those things. And so not anything that necessarily requires someone to be in real life anywhere, right? We can just do that from our homes. And so it's going to be up to the new people that come in to the Nouns DAO. It's going to be up to the people that currently are within Nouns DAO to sort of start wrapping our heads around, well, if we want IRL to happen, like, where is that going to go down? And then what are the systems that we have in place to basically make sure that these things get the attention that I believe that they definitely deserve? And so I think step one is going to have to be the idea, right? We need more proposals and more props from different countries,
And
people that...
to boil that down too, because sometimes that might seem still overwhelming to people coming in new to Nouns, like, oh, I have to make a prop. How do I do that? Just forget it. I don't know how to do it. But one of the good things about CC0 at the intersection of sort of an international crowd like Nouns has is that you can just literally copy what other communities have done. So we've seen that, for example, in Prop House, where one successful prop was to put posters up all over Hong Kong. So just to do an activation, getting the noggles, the Noun style glasses, meme all over Hong Kong with a QR code that brings them to an information thing in Mandarin about what Nouns is about. So that was one successful thing, and then that was repeated in other places like Brazil and in Japan. It's just something that's very simple and easy. It's kind of similar to what you did as well with your activation in NFT NYC, Uptoshi. It's similar to what Beauty and the Punk did at Art Basel in Switzerland. So these sort of like core activations that don't take that much planning and can be done easily with a small group of people would be a good way to start, just to gauge activity and sort of build a team of people who think similarly, and then you can kind of, look at other ways of doing it as well.
Yes, starting small so you can give yourself room to scale is so important. And yeah, that's what I mean too. I would love to see more small grants, more little prop house proposals and stuff too, along the lines of 1 to 2, maybe even 5 ETH of I'm going to give out 100 shirts here, or I'm going to do anything where you're physically going somewhere and doing something nounish and proliferating that way. You were just on the ground somewhere doing something, right? So keeping it simple is definitely what made my prop finally pass. It was a little bit complex at first, but I think what everyone kind of knows to be true is they just want to see you complete something simple first and do it well. And then from there, it's only up from there for you. If you want to continue scaling that, if you want to keep replicating your simple idea to see if you can do it in different countries or whatever is going on. So I love just the ideas. Nouns DAO Brazil had a fantastic activation they just did with a treasure hunt.
That was cool.
That was so good and probably didn't cost too much, right? Like it was posters that were put up. It cost time for them to create that treasure hunt themselves and all the graphics that went behind it, and then to actually put the posters up themselves. But at the end of the day, everyone did a lot of the work because they were going around and screenshotting themselves with these posters and then following the prompts on them. So the prompts would include tagging other Nounish communities, tagging Nouns DAO Brazil. And so basically we all, for like a couple of days, were being tagged.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on? Am I in Rio? I didn't know I was in Rio.
Of like people smiling. Yeah, exactly. And taking selfies. But again, that was so cool. That hit every single one of our phones. If you retweeted it, you helped spread that too. So that was just an example of a very simple activation that had a huge reach, probably more than they had expected. And I hope that we can, replicate those. And if you have seen a smaller activation work somewhere else, like within Nouns DAO Japan or Nouns DAO Brazil, or you loved the posters up in Hong Kong, replicate those. Say, hey, I saw this prop be successful here. I want to do this exact prop, but in my country here or in my city here. So I would like to also see things like that get funded because we already know that those things were successful.
Yeah, and another example I wanted to give as well, which I think is a good one, is the cleanup that was done by Nouns in Singapore. So Nouns in Singapore is just a few people in Singapore who were interested in Nouns, and they went to small grants, which has recently been renamed to Nouns Strategic Funding Works. And you can find them here in the Discord. What's the channel called, Uptoshi? Grants and Retro Funding. So just above Voice Public here, you'll see Voice Public Text, and then SubDAOs, and then Nouns OTC. Then you see Grants and Retro Funding. That's where Nouns Strategic Funding Works lives, and they basically specialize under a committee, including Noun 22 and some other Nouners, with doing like flexible funding for small initiatives up to 10 ETH. So if you have something like this that you think would be a cool activation and it's time sensitive and you don't think that it's a good fit for Prop House for whatever reason, you could go and see if it might be a fit for something that NSFW might be able to fund. That's what Nouns in Singapore did. They said, we'd like to do a beach cleanup with our community. They were funded by NSFW for that. They went out, they had a full day affair with a lunch with some information about Nouns. They put Nouns noggles on their clothes, and they went out and they cleaned up an entire beach and filmed it and put it on social media. Very, very simple, easy thing to plan. Huge impact, very Nounish in its public good source. So I think that was pretty neat. And then on top of that, he came on our show, The Noun Square, at 9 o'clock and talked to us about that. And then we were inspired to do a contest for our listeners. And then from that contest, we had about 60 people that put in entries of them filming themselves or taking photos of themselves cleaning up areas all over the world. And so any one of those people that that put in a contest entry for that, whether you win or not on that contest, that could be a great opportunity to to take that and run with it. And in fact, one of the entries has done exactly that. So Davin Osayagway, I think it's pronounced, is from Uganda, and he did a community cleanup in his community. And then we haven't even announced the winners of our contest yet, but already he's got a prop in for a bigger cleanup to be done in another area of Uganda in Prop House this round. So I believe he might have even won the round yesterday. So kind of neat.
That is so neat. That's incredible. That's the exact thing. Like, you can see that there's a trajectory you can follow if you start having these successful small wins, right? So now they're just going to keep scaling the cleanup. That is so good, and has so much impact. And the other thing that I would just say that I think is going to start proliferating now.
Oh, you're a little bit rugged there, Abtoshi. Abtoshi, are you there?
Activation is you have to get this on
Can
video.
Can you rewind for about a 5-10 seconds? We missed you there for a minute. Oh, and then we lost her altogether. But yeah, so that was a great example of seeing it come all the way along from from an idea all the way through to doing it in a different place. Abtoshi, are you there? Yeah, you were rugged there for a bit.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that my only other key advice, and yes, it was a great example of how you can end up scaling this, but no matter how small your activation is, your first one, you got to get that thing on video. I think media and video and photos and these things are going to make this live forever, because maybe someone wasn't aware that you were doing a cleanup or doing a sticker raid or doing these things on that day in the moment. But it doesn't mean that a year from now, when they Google something on YouTube, that they aren't going to see that event happen. And so that a year from now, if they are experiencing what the content that you're putting out, that means that they are at that event with you. And so we're going to make just bigger impacts faster and more like long-standing, I think, the more media-driven each of these things are as well, too. So I would just encourage everybody, you don't even necessarily have to be physically on camera yourself. If you're doing beach cleanup, seeing anything go in a bag is great media. And then telling us in the audience, like, why you're doing it. And then, hey, Nouns is doing beach cleanup. So I just think that that's a big thing that I would also try to implement, if at all possible, of any type of media that you can around your things.
So to summarize, basically, the answer to both of these questions is essentially just think of a way that you can do an activation that's pretty small and easy to organize in your area. If you need funding for it, then come to either Prop House or Small Grants NSFW here in Nouns and ask and let them know what your plan is. And that's an easy way to sort of get off the ground in your area with an activation, which can then grow to bigger things like Nouns DAO Japan, as was mentioned, Nouns DAO Brazil. We also have Nouns DAO Amigos for Latin America, and some other, I think, Downs, which is in Australia. So lots of different regional sort of organization sub-DAOs have popped up, and there's room for lots more. So we've got a good crowd here. I'm going to open up the stage here to anyone who may have a question. If anyone joined late, this is a completely open topic. Ask us anything this time. So no topic of guidance here. It's just completely open for anyone to ask a question, anything that has crossed your mind about Nouns that you may have on your mind. So if you have a question, don't be shy. Just unmute your mic and we'll call on you to ask. If you can't speak where you are, you can also use the chat bubble on the top right. You'll see Abtoshi has done a couple screenshots. Right underneath that, you could ask questions. Or if you are listening on Twitter, this is a simulcast on Twitter, so you're only hearing the space that's happening on Discord. You can either click the link up above to visit us in Discord, or you can just type out your question underneath the tweet. I'm keeping an eye there, and if I see it, we will answer it. Any other questions from anybody here?
I do see someone's typing. That's awesome. Don't be shy. There's so much going on right now, not only in the Nouns ecosystem, but with the whole Ethereum merge coming up. I'm sure that there could be a wide range of things that you guys might be a little bit curious about. We'll try our best to answer.
Yes, please ask me highly technical questions about the merge that I'm not able to answer. No, I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
Hey friends, I had a question if it's all right.
Sure. Hey, Dre, nice to see you again.
Hey, how's it going? So, first of all, once again, thank you guys for holding these. They're very insightful. It feels really awesome to just be able to listen to you guys. Coincidentally, everything you guys have been speaking about over the last couple minutes about kind of bringing in other countries and establishing, within your own country is a little bit of what I think I'm trying to, really focus on. I just had a prop go up for, I'm pretty much trying to create Nouns Latam, which is nouns in Latin America. You guys may or may not know I'm actually Peruvian, so I'm fully Latino, and I think I spoke a little bit to Aptoshi in her Nouns on the Ground channel, but I basically want to incorporate the Latin American community in events and in everything that's happening with Nouns. So I had my prop go up in Prop House. Unfortunately, it did not go through. I did get some votes, which is very good to know that people are actually voting for this. And I am going to start these spaces, the Twitter spaces. I think this week I have a lot of Latino guests. It's fully in Spanish, which I know is a little bit of a language barrier. But like I said, the prop didn't go through. And I'm just, I know, Aptoshi, I know you know this feeling of not having your prop go through.
Yes.
But how do I, I'm not sure what to do next. Like I said, the Latin American calendar for 2022-2023 is filled with these incredible events, whether it's Bogota, Argentina, Peru. I fully speak English and Spanish. And ideally, to be honest, Aptoshi, I would love to see you and I go down there together. You know what I mean? I think that'd be the way to make this happen. So I guess once the prop is rejected, I guess I'm just looking for a little bit of guidance of kind of what to do next to see if I can make this happen.
So the first thing I would suggest is just in the interest of not duplicating efforts, there are a group called Nouns Dao Amigos who have been active for a few months as well, and their mission is very similar to proliferate nouns in Latin America. So I can put you in touch with the Amigos, and maybe you guys can combine efforts. That's just one idea, because sometimes it's easier to pull all in the same direction. Had you heard of them, or?
Yeah, of course. I've actually spoken with them on their actual Twitter spaces.
Okay.
I think the one thing I would say is a little bit different is that I'm trying to do a little bit more of going to events versus hosting events.
Okay.
But I definitely know the Nandos Amigos. I mean, it's, they're awesome. I love what they're doing over in Mexico. I think I'm looking a little bit more to broaden it all throughout South America. But yeah, they're definitely awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to anything they have to build.
Sounds good. And then, with or without with or without a prop house passing, if you're going to start with the spaces, which I think is a good idea, by all means, you're welcome to come and host that spaces on the Noun Square. I don't know if you heard about the SoapBox, but we have a SoapBox initiative that we just started for any sub-DAOs or organizations that are looking to basically host spaces, but they don't have a big reach yet. You can come and host spaces on our account. So if you'd like to do a Spanish space once a week, talk to us offline and we could chat about that. Maybe that would help you sort of get things off the ground.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm looking for something that's definitely a weekly thing. Like I said, I know a lot of Spanish people in the space, so I have guests even lined up. So yeah, I think it's something I definitely want to do. Start with the spaces and then take it from there and seeing how we can get more Latino people involved in the Nouns ecosystem.
I love it. Anyone else have any advice for Dre about this? Ways to get this off the ground?
I'm looking at your prop right now, the one that didn't pass. I really understand. I love this. So I also think that any voice in the Spanish community is huge. I'd love to see that expand more. My exact advice for you would be what Oxigami said to me. And so by the time I had gotten to my last and final iteration of my prop house, and don't forget, 4 of them just didn't pass. It was a little bit broad. So I love your idea. I think what you are saying to us in this prop and what you need to now maintain as your overall sort of goal and overarching theme is that you are for Latin America proliferation of the nouns, right? So Nouns Latam. Now I know that that's what Nouns Latam is going to do. So the next time you put a prop in, or if you go to small grants now and say, hey, I did get votes here, here is you need to pick a specific event. So I was told by Oxigami that I needed to pick an event. And so that ended up being the sticker raid at NFT NYC, right? So an exact reason I was going to go to an exact event, what were these days, and what was this amount that I was going to use, right? So upon proving that, then you can move into, hey, LATAM events, like multiple events, right? But you got to show this one thing first. And so I would continue to now use your prop 1256 as like a thing that you can always reference when you put in a new prop for this event. If you feel comfortable, like if there's one coming up, I would give yourself at least 2 months, so that the prop has time to pass, or you have time to like make things happen, or whatever your idea is to proliferate. A month and a half or a month, you can still do it and get away with it, but I'd go for that 2 months if you can. Like if there's something at the end of October, it would be cool, or in the beginning of November. And I'd go for that one event and link back to this prop and say, this is something that you want to be a part of.
Yeah, Toshi, I remember when you first came into Prop House, it was like a 12-point business plan on how to conquer the entire East Coast America for nouns. And we were like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is a 2 ETH grant, right? And then
Very ambitious.
And then you focused from there, and the rest is history.
Well, and also to be fair, right? It was pretty confusing. It took me weeks to break down. I think the traditional ways that I had operated within companies, and then break down my traditional mindset about even copyright in general. So the whole CC0 thing, I was just not grasping, how far I could go with that. And so I think it took a couple weeks for that. The people in this room, I know you guys have been hanging out for at least that amount of time. I'm not sure if you guys have had similar experiences with that, but I think that once you get past that learning curve, just like how you're getting psyched, Dre, like at this point in time, I remember you entered Nouns and you had like just your art, and now we're learning that you actually you're really interested in being on the ground and like want to be out there, and you have greater ideas for proliferation. So it took us a couple weeks to even learn that about you. I think the pace is like perfect. And then I would just now harness it. Like, what's this one thing you're going to do and just absolutely master, and show all of the people here that you can do that, so that you then, if we end up creating some type of events pod or something, that you are one of those members that are there and like known for doing IRL things.
Psycho TG.
Awesome. I cannot thank you guys enough. I mean, I feel like these should be like paid sessions of awesome knowledge. So
TodyHawk.eth. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
Just thank you guys, especially Toshi. The feedback you guys give me is so awesome and so specific. I legitimately take it to heart. So I don't want to take up any more time. Just a big thank you for all the feedback. It really means a lot. I'm gonna take it, harness it, and I'm gonna keep building. I like you mentioned, I love, everybody knows that I do 3D and stuff, but I see an opportunity here to bring in Latino artists. There's a huge community of Latino folks that don't know anything about this. So I really think, like you mentioned, Otoshi, I want to be on the ground. I want to be helping people. And above all, I want to be spreading this message of how awesome the nouns are. So a big thank you, guys. It really means a lot that you give me this feedback. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Dre. And we'll talk to you offline about getting your space on the Soapbox maybe next week. Give it a try. I think it'll be good to have a built-in audience. And I think we've got a lot of people who speak Spanish in our audience who would be really thankful to have that. So it could be win-win.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Really quick with that. The Soapbox is a video thing, right? Like it's like an camera. I'm still trying to understand what exactly it is.
No, Soapbox is very simple. It's just basically we're opening up the other 23 hours of the day when we're not doing the 9 o'clock show to any subDAO or organization or community within Nouns that wants to host a space on our Twitter, essentially. So it's just opening up the platform so you can pull a Soapbox into the Noun Square and have your spaces. Very simple, and you're totally welcome. Anyone else who's listening here who has a community who'd like to take advantage, we can talk offline about that.
Cool, very cool. Yeah, I definitely love to take advantage of that, and eventually, like I said, host those spaces in Spanish with the Latino community. So thanks again, guys. I really appreciate all this awesome feedback.
Let's do it.
Thank you, Dre.
We have a couple more questions up, Toshi, coming in from the Twitter, which is great. One quick note about the Twitter is if you are joining on Twitter, just to remind you, it's a listen-only simulcast because otherwise we'll get feedback on the mic. So this event is actually happening in Discord. If you want to join us and interact, you can click the link in the pinned tweet and join us over in the Voice Public channel on Nouns Discord. Otherwise, you can comment on the pinned tweet with anything that you'd like to ask or add. and then we'll answer that. So on Twitter, someone has commented and asked a question. JC Jaw.near asked, what time link of the small grants? I think he's asking where to find small grants. So JC, if you're listening to this, what you want to do is hit the link that's pinned to this spaces for discord.gg/nouns, and that's going to bring you into the Nouns Discord. Then you'll need to verify yourself as being human in one channel by clicking an emoji, and then the entire Discord, with the exception of 2 channels, is open to you. You will see us here right now in Voice Public chatting, and then if you go a few rows above that, you'll see grants and retro funding. That's where the small grants, or it's actually now called Nouns Strategic Funding, works. That's where they live, and that's where you could pitch a small project, 10 ETH or less, if you wanted to. JC also had another question, where or whom to contact from Nouns Singapore. The person to talk to from Nouns Singapore is either at Nouns in Singapore or Wide Eyes Carl. So I'll respond once we get done here to your tweet and connect you with him as well if you're in Singapore and you'd like to be involved with that.
Maybe that the first question, the what time link of small grants, maybe he also meant what is the timeline of the small grants. And I know that's actually a question that I've been asked a couple times too, so maybe we can answer that as well. But the timeline of small grants,
it could be. It's a typo
vary.
one or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and answer that question. 2 for 1.
2 for 1. I do think it's going to vary. Again, sometimes you're going to throw your idea there and you're going to be able to reference other prop houses you've participated in or something else you've participated in with the community where maybe now the people on small grants can say, hey, I know that person. Yes. And so they can assess this prop more easily. If you are specifically looking for small grants to fund you, I would state that on discourse in the posts that you make. They are really, really good, especially now in 22, at getting back to everybody. So I think that the other thing, it's the timeline is going to vary again based on the feedback that you get. So what is this comment like? Do they want to see one change? Like, do they want you to sort of rework a piece of it or, the whole thing? Who knows? But at that point in time, if you kind of work with the feedback and then it sort of all aligns and looks a little bit better, that funding can happen at that point. Or you could have like a couple of weeks of feedback. So it's really going to depend on not only just are other people interacting with you, but like, are you pushing this thing forward? Are you not just like sitting back and waiting for this thing to get funded? Or are you really out there, like really trying to tell people what your idea is and sort of why it should be passed? And so I think that's why sometimes we can see some things that go through small grants get funded a little bit faster than others. And so again, the timeline would just vary.
But having said that, the whole point of small grants or NSFW is to be a flexible pool of capital. So if something is time sensitive, obviously it's always better to plan in advance, but if something's time sensitive, that's the place to go for sure. And if you're looking to get to Discourse, which Aptoshi just mentioned, Discourse is basically like a forum hosted on the Nouns website. So you can go to Discourse, discourse.nouns.wtf, and then you'll find the forum there. And that's another way that you can post your ideas and sort of get feedback on them and see if people resonate.
The pinned tweet in the small funding is directing towards Notion now.
Perfect. Even better. So yeah, if you hop into grants and retro funding and check the pinned tweet, Symbiotech that says that has the links that you need there as well. Awesome. Any other questions from anyone here? I see Clement Karanja. Did you have a question? Or were you just arriving with your mic hot?
Okay, I have a question. Just a fan from Kenya.
Okay, welcome.
In Africa.
Welcome.
Just wanted to ask, in terms of the props that are funded, which are the types of maybe projects that maybe a person can pitch to the Nouns?
So really any proposal that helps to build the Nouns community or helps to spread the Nouns meme, those tend to be the most successful. So we talked before you got in here about some simple, easy to plan projects like, doing a cleanup of your area, wearing nouns noggles or wearing shirts that have nouns, and organizing people around something like that could be a good idea. You could also do something like where, depending on the laws in your area, you could put up some posters or pass out pins and stuff like that of nouns. Those are some easy ones to organize. You could also throw an event is a way that you could do something. Really, the sky's the limit. Any idea that you have that's either based in your area or not can work. So I mean, if it's great and you want to do a prop that's specific to your area in Kenya, that's amazing. We need more. We need to spread more nouns in that area for sure. But also, if you just want to do an art project or something that it doesn't matter where you live in the world, because this is a digital DAO, you can really do any kind of idea at all. So yeah, I don't know if that's helpful, but hopefully it's a good start point.
Yeah, that's a good starting point. I think I may have some ideas. I may actually pitch them in the group. But now the question is, even before anything goes on, maybe, for example, you've done maybe a cleaning, maybe some planting of trees, and all that. So are you supposed to document it first, or what are the steps? Like, I have this idea I've come up with.
Yeah, definitely no recording. The recording isn't like required or anything, because it is an open permissionless system. But I think, as Aptoshi mentioned earlier, it's always a good idea just to do it, because it really helps to show everybody exactly what you did, and it's really nice to give other people inspiration to do it in their area as well. So with cell phones these days, it's so easy to just record what you do and throw it up on Twitter. So it's kind of a no-brainer to do if you're going to do something like a cleanup or a tree planting. But those are both great ideas, by the way.
Yeah, I love the tree planting idea. And then there's basically going to be two very distinct ways that you're going to ask for this. And it's just going to be dependent upon your timeline and what you think. So essentially what I would recommend to do is to put your idea out there first and ask before you do the event. So before you plant the trees, you tell us, hey, this is what I want to have planned. This is the day I want to do it, or whatever you got. This is how I can do that. This is my supplier for these seeds and these trees, and these are the people that are going to come out with me, and this is how much it's going to cost. And so then at that point in time, if it is funded, you get to now use that funding to go do the event. Or so that's one way you can do it. We definitely obviously recommend that too, right? Because it's more of like once you get the go ahead, you've been funded and it's all kind of there and very clear. The second thing you can do, that's a different way, but again, not guaranteed. So I don't want anyone to do this, but sometimes it just works out a little bit better for people. But it's what we would call retroactive funding. And so you already did the event. You guys were all in Nouns shirts. You planted the trees. Maybe it was an event you had going on at the school. You guys did this all together. And now you want to tell the Nouns, hey, this is what we did. This is what it costs. Maybe it costs the same amount. So just 1 ETH or 2 ETH, I don't know. But can we get basically retro funded, which means funded after the fact, for this Nouns activation we did? And so again, I do not recommend starting with that. Maybe once you get a little bit more familiar with the Nouns community and you have lots of ideas and you sort of know how it all works here, you can go for that, because at that point in time, anyone I would recommend maybe going for retro funding, it would really have to be a very Nounish project that had happened to sort of guarantee that people would say, okay, yes, wow, thank you. But it is like a huge mantra here within the Nouns ecosystem that people who build with Nouns are rewarded generously. And so they really do mean that. So retro is definitely another route. But so the one I would recommend is the prior to, right? So let us know what you're going to do so we can fund the event. But retro funding post-event is also an option.
I think that's a better understanding. Thank you. Another question is, in terms of the Nouns DAO community, like in Kenya, if I was to set it up, what could be like the steps? Like, how should I do it? What are like the basics, or everything should be Nounish?
I think that first, before, if you're community driven, that is incredible. Like you are so in the right place. And then what you're going to want to do is have like a slow start just for yourself, even too, right? So let's start building that community in the sense of from the ground up. So that means you're going to hang out with the nouns in the ecosystem. You're going to see the types of projects people are doing. You're going to get to see how people have activated nouns in their countries, right? Like the activations they've done, like the trash cleanup. You had the awesome idea about the tree planting. That has been another proposal with nouns before. I'd see what those guys are doing. I'd try to get your first event in, really give yourself the time to sort of just slowly learn about the ecosystem, because after probably a month or a month and a half, and let's get your first event in, and that happens, you yourself are going to have ideas of how you're going to start building that community in different ways. And so it's really going to be on, how you're inspired, and that's just going to grow and broaden by the longer and you're here in this community, and the more time that you spend sort of learning and seeing how you can now implement this where you are and then with the talents that you have.
And you'll know your area better than anyone else as well, so you know the needs of your community, and you can find that intersection point between what's needed in your specific area of Kenya and what would also be good for the nouns community at large.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's a good one. And I think I'll be learning more on the nouns. I've been learning it like for a month, got it from a friend, and it amazed me. So I'm ready maybe for projects because I'm an artist too, and a developer at the same.
Very cool. Well, there's lots of artists contributing to different projects all over the Nouniverse. So if you lean in that direction, that's perfectly good as well. These on the ground things are great, but there's also lots of people with a lot of artistic talent contributing in different ways too. So immerse yourself in nouns as well. Spend time in this Discord and in other Discords from other communities that are nounish, and you'll make friends and you'll find different ways to contribute as an artist as well, I'm sure.
Thank you for asking all of your questions. And then maybe if you just click on this voice public channel, you see that little chat bubble. There's like a place that you can type in there. You should put your link to your Twitter if you have one, so everybody here in this room has the alpha and knows how to connect to you, because everyone is always looking for artists, and so that's awesome. Yeah. If you put your Twitter link there, we could follow you.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Awesome. Big Shot Clem, you've got a question.
Yeah, hey, how's it going?
You're really quiet, Clem.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, much better. Thanks.
Okay, so my question is, there's so many events and activations going on worldwide, and it's hard to keep track of what's happening where. For me personally, like I'm having a hard time figuring out where I could send stuff to. So like like right now, there's an esports pod event happening this week, and instead of just planning ahead to send them stuff, regular mail, I'm like overnighting them stuff from China, basically. So it's like, is there a plan to put together like a IRL schedule of events, so people that are building or trying to support these events can kind of do like an at a glance calendar to see what's going on this month, next month, the month after?
I think that's a great idea. Someone should do it.
I was just going to say that. I'm like,
I think that's something that would be really helpful. I know Noun 142 has a calendar of digital events, which is super helpful in terms of knowing what calls are coming up and whatnot. And you can get the iCal link to subscribe to that. So that's one thing that will help. But for literal like IRL events, it's definitely something that would be good.
Would it be like a bulletin board of sorts that, people that are creating these events can update? So that way, instead of like it being all on Aptoshi or somebody else to manage, like it's a community managed board of a calendar where you can just look at, okay, November we have, DesignerCon, and this is what's happening. This is a time that it's happening. And then there's relevant links within that thing. So if you want to promote it on your social media, you can talk about it too. I think it'll just be a valuable tool to organize.
I'm just surprised, Clem, with everything you're working on, that you would volunteer for something like this. It's just, where are you going to find the time?
Dude,
Can I pop in here? This is actually something that I am trying to get going with a couple of guys in Little Nouns.
Oh,
Something
good.
that's kind of cross Nounish universe.
Nice.
Something that's going to be
Nice.
scraping the different Discord, scraping Twitter, and then kind of be token gated to post, but available for everybody to view, obviously, and across pollination of in real life, Discord events, spaces, pretty much any like an overarching calendar that you can include all the different communities, be able to click on and off the different, like if you only want to see spaces, click the spaces and click off everything else and you're only looking at the spaces. It's really in just the idea inception mode, but yeah, I think it's something that and I know I've jumped in prop houses because it's when I go to put spaces up, I have like no idea what overlap I'm
Well,
crossing with.
we gave the example earlier where we accidentally coincided today with the Nouner World Call. So yeah, it happens even like just within, like literally it's happening right now. If you look up voice Nouner call, there's 6 Nouners in there chatting. So we obviously need something like this, and we need to know what's going on in the Nounerverse, and that's just within the Nouns Discord. So once you factor in, all the things that are happening with the Noun Square and the SoapBox and all the different spaces from all the different communities, plus all the IRL stuff, yeah, it's impossible to keep track of currently.
Especially as the growth is just so explosive, and since I decided to talk, I just wanted to fill in real quick for anybody who may be listening. Don't get discouraged like if your prop gets shot down. A lot of it sometimes I find is you get so excited with the community, you get so excited with the discussions you're having and other people being excited about what you're excited about, and then your excitement level is just through the roof. And then kind of what, it sounds like what you did, Toshi, how you have this like super plan that you're like, this is amazing. I spent so much time on it. It's like perfection. And then everybody looks at it and is like, what the hell's going on here? It's like, just, you need to almost reel in your excitement a little bit and just kind of let yourself be in the moment. And that's what I found when I first joined, and I had a prop shot down and then came back and did a little bit of prop house. And, it's almost like too much excitement can get you in the Nouns ecosystem.
Yeah, or you just have to find the right product market fit, if you want to put it that way, or just find the right idea at the right time, and that might take some time as well. And it might take some time to figure out what the needs are of the DAO or of your specific sub community that you're in. So yeah, I think that's very normal.
Yeah, I was also gonna say, Big Shot brought to attention something that I think people have been talking about, needing this calendar for IRL events, and then you're here and you obviously are now feeling that thing of like, oh, now, and then I went to just go add you on Discord, and it's like, I just had to accept the friend request that you had already sent. And so even random things like time like that, where I wasn't even purposely not accepting that request. It was probably just sitting there.
I thought you said, you told me the other day you didn't want to be friends with SQ or something, didn't you? No, I'm just kidding.
Don't believe the lies, SQ. No, but you were so the perfect example of, finding what is this product that people need, because every single day someone has some idea or something. There are so many people operating within this community. There's different artists, there's different sub DAOs, there's people that are more governance, heavy with their participation, and then there's people that are more contest heavy with their participation. So in that, there's a lot of needs that I think each community is feeling right now, and sort of going through this experiment themselves of these things that we could even need as simple as a calendar, that I think everyone would love and benefit from. So thank you again for doing that. I'm really excited to learn about the Little Nouns one, and I hope that this can definitely be brought over here, because there is just Noun Square alone now already had a daily show, and now we're opening it up and already have at least 7 soapboxes. So, that alone is 14 events right there in 1 week. So that doesn't include any of the calls here for Nouns. The calendar is so
But
key.
who's counting right up, Toshi?
Me.
By the way, SQ, in the chat, in case you didn't see it, Madrovsky mentioned that he registered nouns.events. If you were interested to make use of it, why don't you connect with our index card friend, and maybe you could use it.
That is awesome. I do see a raised hand a little bit higher up in the chat from Elias Sidious.
Yeah, looks like he's joining us from Argentina, maybe.
No, actually, I'm not from Argentina. Hi, guys. Hello to everyone. sorry, I have to first I have to say my apologies because I can't speak English as well as you guys. But I know this question can be really, really simple. But I wanted to know, anyone here help me to submit an idea in Prophouse?
You're looking
Yes, I
for
will.
feedback? You're looking for feedback on an idea that you have for Prop House, is that right?
No, I wanted to submit an idea in Prophouse, but I couldn't find out how to
Okay,
do that.
sure. So it's very easy. All you need to do is go to prop.house. We'll put the link in the chat there. So prop.house, Aptoshi just put it there.
Okay.
If you add the HTTPS, yeah, there you go. So if you click that, you can go over to Prop House, and then you'll scroll down and you'll see that there's different houses or different divisions for Prop House based on different communities. For most beginners, if you're just getting used to Nouns and learning about it, the one you want to check out most likely is Nouns Launchpad, the one on the furthest to the left. So if you click through there, that is basically for smaller projects, usually 1 to 2 ETH, and the prizes might be 5 to 10 prizes per round. The next one for that starts next Monday, so you have some time to think about an idea, and then you can just go to. I'll actually put the link here directly to that house.
Thank you so much. How did I not see that?
So there's the direct link.
Sorry.
So if you go there, all you need to do is connect your
Yes,
wallet,
sorry.
your Ethereum wallet, and then you can
Yes.
follow the steps there to make your proposal.
Can I call you Hawk?
Pardon me?
Can I call you Hawk? I because of your username.
Hawk? Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can definitely call him that.
You can call me Hawk.
Sorry.
I believe I will now be
can
called
I add
Hawk
you
for a
as
long
a friend for more guides?
time. Yeah, I'll add you as a friend here on Discord in case you need some help. Sure.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for your question. And we do these every week as well. Usually it's on Tuesday, not Wednesday. So if by next Tuesday you still need some help with the prop, drop back in and ask for help. We'll be here.
Thank you so much. That would be so helpful.
And definitely go in there. There's in that Nouns Launchpad prop house alone, in just that house, there's 9 different rounds. And so there's a lot of different examples and samples that you have to look at. I would definitely do that. And you can kind of see what the props are that have already won or got the most amount of votes. And I would see how they've sort of format their props and what they're talking about. That's always a great place to start.
Yeah, I actually have checked some ideas which are really good, and guys in the community, they have agree with it. They are agree with it.
Can I ask you about your PFP? I'm so curious now. It looks like an Argentinian flag ghost.
Yes. Can I tell you about it?
Yeah, sure.
It's an idea for Lil Nouns. We have a project for FIFA World Cup 2022 in Qatar. That's why my PFP is spooky, actually.
Yeah.
And we have many features. So let me just send you the link of the proposal.
Sure, I'll take a look afterwards. Sounds cool.
Thank you so much.
It looks nounish anyway.
Yeah, it does. It's cute. I like that. I haven't seen anything around the World Cup, so definitely keep pushing with that idea. That's awesome.
Because Arabic people, like people in Qatar, dress like this usual, like the elder guys, I guess.
Oh.
Dress like this. That's why the content of the World Cup 2022 is something like this. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't actually. No, I'm not sure what you're referencing, but send us some information and we'll take a look offline for sure.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks for your question. Anybody else here have a question at all? Anything Nouns related? If you're joining us on Twitter, I see a few new people on Twitter. Just as a reminder, it's a listen-only simulcast on Twitter. We can't take questions on Twitter because there'll be feedback on the mic. So if you have a question and you're on Twitter, just type it as a response to the pinned tweet, or join us on Discord and you can come over and ask us here.
Okay, quick question. between the proposal ideas and the props? Is there a difference?
The proposal ideas and a prop, is that what you said?
Oh, yes. When we say a prop, we mean proposal. So that's kind of the same thing, proposal and prop.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions from anybody here about anything nouns? There's no overarching subject for today's Ask Us Anything. It's really an open floor. No question is a bad question. So if there's anything you've been wanting to ask about Nouns Dial, now's the time.
It's pretty cool that the questions have kind of been geared around, international communities and IRL. That's very telling.
Mm-hmm. I do have one question actually that came in on Twitter, which is a big question, a hot potato for sure. May I know, this is from Hanoun Kapin, who I've seen on the Noun Square quite often for our 9 o'clock show. He says, may I know, is there any roadmap or long-term plan from Nouns DAO in the future? So that's a good question. So Nouns, I would start by saying it's different than most NFT projects. So many of the NFT projects that you might have seen over the past year were heavy on the roadmap, heavy on the floor price. Nouns is a little bit different, focused more on sort of building a community, building a brand slowly over time. And so there isn't really a roadmap except for, just some general intention around what projects we fund and whether they're Nounish or not. I don't know if that's the best answer, but I'll open it up to, maybe Aptoshi or Klim or CDT to add to that question because it's a big one.
Remind me of the question.
Oh, just asking if Nouns had a roadmap for the future.
No. Every project that gets funded expands what we're doing here.
Yeah, exactly.
The only roadmap is to spend the treasury. So we need people to come in.
Yeah, and the only sort of item on that roadmap that's guaranteed is that there's one noun every day forever.
That's right.
What comes outside, after, around that, it's going to really be on the community, which is really interesting, actually. I think that Nouns completely solved that problem that I think a lot of traditional, PFP, NFT companies might be experiencing right now, which is just, even if you threw the best festival of any of your holders' lives last year, they're all looking at you the day after and saying, okay, now what? And you are sort of in this perpetual, like, have we provided the holders the value that we've promised? And then where does that, then reach its point where it's like, okay, we have, and then how do we continue after that, right? So
yeah, it's like when moon, and then it's like when Mars, and then it's like when Jupiter.
Yeah, exactly. And no one on that side is ever going to be satisfied. And then, you're going to get burnout from the project leaders, especially if it's just on the onus of like a handful of people to sort of please thousands of people eternally, right? And so I think the one noun every day forever, and the way that the proposal systems, both on and off chain, work within the nouns, it solves that issue. We are all looking at each other like, okay, now what next? Instead of just at a group of 5 individuals.
The problem with roadmaps more generally, and I've said this for the entire time that I've worked within the Nouniverse for other extensions as well, is that roadmaps sort of box you into something that may not even be important to you by the time the roadmap ends. So, you might say, oh, this is our 12-month roadmap. These are the 10 things we're going to do between now and then. And by the time that, 12th roadmap item comes up, nobody even cares about those items that were added to your roadmap a year ago. So it's very constraining and for very little reason. So I think it's much better to build slowly and organically, as is the case with Nouns and like Aptoshi just described. Hopefully,
well, that's the cool thing too, is you get to watch that. You get to just watch the treasury and watch the DAO and see what decisions are voted on or made. And that's the only way that treasury moves. And so we are all witnessing it all at the same time and at the same pace.
Love it. We do have another good question here from Madrovsky that I'd like to go to. So Madrovsky is asking a technical question. He said that they've won a prop house, they've received the ETH, and asking for some general advice about whether it should be converted to ETH right away, do it as needed, save some for crypto native uses, etc. My advice on this, Modrovsky, would be it depends on what the funds are going to be used for. So if there are parts of those funds that need to go to suppliers or subtrades who are going to expect to be paid what they need to be paid, then I would recommend that you convert all of those ETH funds into something stable like DAI or USDC, so that you can make sure that you can do that. If part of those funds are for your own time spent on the prop and you're okay as an ETH native to be paid in ETH and you're okay with the volatility that could come with that, then by all means, leave it in ETH. So as an example, with our recent prop to extend the Noun Square for 5 months, we ended up deciding as a group to convert 75% of the ETH over to USDC because that's our kind of operating capital to pay all of our contributors, and we just need to make sure that we were protected from downside risk on that. And then we kept about 25% separate just to capture any upside risk from post-merge ETH, and that was just how we came across it. But there's no one answer aside from just don't let yourself get burned by not converting anything to a stable coin. And then if ETH decides to have a little 50-60% downturn right during the point where you're supposed to be executing on your proposal, it puts you in a bad position. So does that help, Modrovsky? I don't think he can actually talk where he is, but he's typing. So we're also getting some alpha drip from CDT in the chat. He says prop house redesign coming in a couple weeks, will be much more straightforward and easy to use, at which point SQ insulted it and called it warty, and now CDT is asking about the warts. Just bringing you up to date on the chat. Modrovsky says thanks. Yeah, was leaning towards that rough breakdown as well, even though it's only 2 ETH. Yep, so totally up to you. Just be responsible with it. And, if for whatever part is going to you personally, that's a personal decision about, your ability to withstand price fluctuations in ETH, etc. So, and I'd just like to point out, CDT says Prophouse is a perfect app and they write no bugs. We can attest to that. Any other questions about anything now? I was really, really enjoying all the questions we're getting today. To be honest with you, I was a little nervous coming into this. I said to 9999, what if we get no questions with no topic? But he was right. People really came ready to ask all sorts of different questions. So I guess that's why they pay him the big bucks.
And you guys really made the topic today, honestly.
Yeah, the topic kind of came together, but having said that, if you have a question about something that we haven't talked about today, by all means, ask it. We'll probably wrap up in 10 to 15 minutes here if things don't get super riled up here with the questions. But if you do have something, by all means, just unmute your mic and we'll call on you. If you're on Twitter, post those questions as replies to the pinned tweet. We're checking that periodically as well. These are the spaces that we need Woody's meditation, his Nounish meditation music, to play in the intro.
Yeah, I actually have a question I was going to bring up if nobody else has anything.
All right, let's go for it.
So if you're coming into Nouns, right, and it's your first time learning about the project, you're interested in it, you come in the Discord, from your guys' perspective, like what is the best way to immerse yourself in Nouns? Because you come in the Discord, it can be overwhelming. There's a lot of information out there on the internet, on the websites, and all of the things. What would you guys recommend the first step that someone take to become immersed in the Nouns ecosystem?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to depend on the person, right? So if the person
CDT with the Nouns Center.
Shameless self-promotion. But I mean, we had this exact question a few weeks ago from Psych Dre, who's here today. And the advice that we gave him at that time was pretty similar. Like, yeah, definitely check out Nouns Center. Everything that you need to know about Nouns is there. That's nouns.center. We'll type that in the chat for you as well. And also, you can come hang out in the Nounsel channel of Nouns. So like I said earlier, Nouns is an open Discord. Once you get here, you just have to click the verify channel and verify that you're not a robot. And then if you do that, you'll be able to access all but a couple of the channels, which are for Nouns holders only. The rest of them are just Nouns fans, Nouns community like ourselves. So you can go in general, you can go in Nouniverse. Those are a couple places to hang out. You can also check out the Nounsel channel. So Aptoshi, what's Nounsel, and why might someone want to pop in there as someone new to the community?
Nounsel is a collection of Nounish builders within the community. You have to have been a Nounish builder and then voted in. They do new applicants once a month. We actually had an awesome AUA that went all over, or I'm sorry, that went over Nounsel. We actually had an AUA that went over Noun Center, and we had an AUA that went over Prop House. And so these are definitely the three things that I would also recommend for any new person. But Nounsel is where you're going to see people who are very active in building within this Nouns community. You can only have one person representing sort of each Nounish project or sub-DAO, or whatever sort of reason you are applying for the Nounsel. So I would encourage anyone that already has built something, or anyone that builds within Nouns this month. Maybe you have a prop pass in the second week of September. I would encourage you to get your application in for Nounsel. That's at nounsel.wtf. And then again, at the end of the month, those are collected and new Nounselers are voted in. So as much as, you want to find those easy places to look for information if you're a new builder, the best thing you're going to want to do is just see what the people who have been building are talking about, sharing things that they need help with and stuff like that too. So that's what you're going to find when you hang out in the Nounsel area of this Discord. That's, I believe, is just below or above us here. It's below us.
Below, yeah.
I'd add come play FOMO with us on 9 o'clock. It's a great place to get Nounish content.
Thanks, Symbiotech.
Seriously.
Yeah, I guess if CDT gets to do shameless self promotion, we do too. But yeah, we have a daily show at 9 o'clock, which is the end of the auction every day, and you can find us on Twitter at noun_o_clock. We'll send a link over there. But that's a great way to listen in, learn more. We have a guest every day, so definitely another way to get immersed into the Nounish community.
Hey everyone, to tag onto the Nounsel topic, what's the best way to kind of like receive feedback on a working proposal? So, something that's in process, something that still needs refinements and feedback.
Yes, I totally hear you. And I think that the simplest thing is that you're going to have to ask for it, and be a little bit more just open to kind of sending it out and then having that initial ask where you say, hey, you think you could check out this prop? I'm looking for feedback. As opposed to, of course, if you're open to that and put that on your prop, you maybe just be expecting people to sort of jump in and do it. But I think if you just start doing a little bit of outreach, you'll get way more comments and stuff on that. If you're kind of just connecting with people individually and saying you'd appreciate the feedback there.
Also specifically, if you get in touch with me, Andre, or Joel Cares or Maddie, we can, or even CDT here, we can put together a thread in our Nounsel Votes chat where you can talk about a proposal and start a thread there for discussion. So that can be a helpful way as well.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. We did get another question on Twitter here, Aptoshi. I'm just going to pull it up from Parisi, who's got the 9 o'clock noggles in his or her name. He says, hi, how can I participate in a proposal round? Is it needed to have a noun NFT in order to do so? So really good question, Parisi. Nouns is a little bit different than most projects, most NFT projects, in the sense that most of the participation in the DAO does not require ownership of the actual noun token. So the answer is no, you don't have to own a noun in order to participate in a proposal round. There are three ways that you can ask to be funded by the DAO. One would be small grants, which is now called Noun Strategic Funding Works. We talked about that a little bit earlier in the Ask Us Anything, but if you pop into the Discord and go into the channel that's called Grants and Retro Funding, you can just pitch your idea there and see if you can get funded. That's usually for ideas that are less than 10 ETH. You can also keep an eye on prop.house, which we linked in the chat on Discord a little bit ago. Take a look at all the different houses and rounds that are running there, and maybe you can apply to one of those ongoing contests with your idea. Or thirdly, if you have a really big idea that's maybe 10 ETH or 20 ETH or more, then that's something that you could try to find a noun owner to help you. Two noun owners would have to help you to sponsor your idea and put it on chain where it would be voted on by the entire DAO. So those are kind of the three ways that you can get funded by the DAO. The first two, you don't need to own a noun. The third one, you at least need to have the help of two people or one person who owns two nouns in order to put up a prop. And if you are here in the Discord, CDT put a very helpful graphic up that comes from his site that we mentioned earlier, nouns.center, which explains what I just kind of explained, but better and with nicer pictures. So go take a look at that as well.
It's so crazy. I'm so used to saying that you don't need a noun to participate in these things that I just forget how cool that is and like what a great part of this community that is. Like I've never seen a different community that was so open to and really catered to people who were even non-holders of the main DAO. And so obviously, we're here building, and I know that most people have been participating in like buying other Nounish communities or buying into them, like having NFTs from little nouns and everything that's branched off of the nouns. But we really are provided a space to build here as non-holders. And I don't think I can really think of another NFT company. You guys can tell me if you know of one, but that would, put the time in like that and the effort to create that kind of space.
There are others, but they're definitely few and far between. Definitely most projects seem to want to token gate, every way that you can participate in the community in order to drive the price of the token up. But that is not really a priority for nouns in the short term. So a little bit different in that sense.
Not only that, but Prop House supports other communities as well. There's at least 4 communities that are potentially nounish, but aren't, sub-DAOs or directly affiliated, the MFers and etc.
Yeah, we just onboarded 2 weeks ago On-Chain Monkeys. If you missed it yesterday, we had a really good Prop House Spaces with their community, and it's really interesting to see sometimes other NFT communities like OCM that are not related to nouns in any way, shape, or form, but have very similar values in the sense of being a DAO that's concentrated on public good. And so, yeah, like Symbiotech mentioned, they're using Prop House infrastructure, but using their own treasury to fund ideas for their community, which is really cool to see. But yeah, it's really nice to see infrastructure being kind of synthesized and used in different communities as well. Any other questions about anything nounish? No question is off limits. Well, some questions are probably off limits, but try us.
Hey, Toshi, when is your next on the ground event?
The next on the ground event, I leave Saturday actually, so it's coming up, and I am attending the advisory fashion show. So I'm very excited about that too, and I think it's going to be really important and key to sort of get an interview with those guys and get footage of that whole thing as it goes down.
I just sent them 3 pairs of my own, like all of my noggles that I have left for that show. So
that is awesome. I will definitely be bringing the noggles, and then I have a pair of Nouns Vision that I finally got as well. So I'm going to be rocking all the noggles and things, and we'll definitely have footage of that for anyone that's not able to go. But I think that that's pretty important too. I'm trying to use these events that I'm going to highlight other builders in the community. So we'll see how that goes. I'm pretty excited.
It's amazing where they're doing it too. So it's going to be really great to get some fancy looking people shots, not just on the street or holding a pair in hand.
It'll be good juxtaposition for sure. The fun noggles with the fancy dress.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet.
I see Hanoun and Parisi are actually on Twitter listening, so hopefully we answered your questions properly. Give us some emojis if those were helpful answers, and if you need clarification, just tweet us again and I'll keep an eye out. Thanks for your questions, guys. Anyone else on Twitter or here in Discord with a final question before we wrap up for this week?
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks. Super Tight Woody actually asked the question that I asked him, like, where do we get started? What do we do in here? I'm a builder myself, and it's really great hearing what you guys got cooking over here. Looking to get into it, and I'm just kind of curious about communities that want to kind of get a little bit more structured, and we got a DAO in some of the communities I'm involved with, and I'm thinking like the prop house thing, and how we can kind of like bridge the gap even if our projects aren't necessarily related. Where do we start with that? Do we reach out to somebody in particular, or is there a place where we can get information like the Nouns Center or something?
So if you're talking about Prop House in particular, I know the team is super busy right now working on a V2 upgrade. CDT was teasing some of that in the chat a little bit ago before you left. But if you are interested in employing Prop House within your own DAO or other community, I can add you as a friend. You can send me the information and I'll pass it along to Seneca. And as soon as they have a moment to review it, they'll definitely do that. And I know Seneca's super excited about other communities using the infra that they've built when possible, so long as the values are aligned and everything. So
perfect. Yeah, add me as a friend. Definitely interested.
Okay, we'll do. By the way, is that a dick toad or a crypto dick butt in your?
It's a dick toads.
A dick toads.
Yeah, Karim is my co-creator for Dick Toads, and he's actually, the project he's referencing is Crypto Dick Butts, which I've been telling them to maybe utilize Prop House, and I think both sides would be super excited about that. So we should definitely connect you guys.
Well, in that case, I've already talked to Seneca about Crypto Dick Butts, and he said he's game. So if you guys are serious about it, connect with me. I just friend requested you, and we'll get you connected to Seneca and see what we can do.
That's awesome. That's perfect.
I think it would be a super good fit, I think, for Crypto Dick Butts.
I think so too. I mean, we're working on the Dick Toads. The Nouns glasses are in there. We're all about all of the CCO projects, and I love what you guys are doing and how you're organized.
And that's all bonus. Like I mentioned yesterday, we did a prop house with On-Chain Monkey. And honestly, before that prop house, I didn't know a whole lot about their community. But it was really interesting listening to the leaders of that community talk about why they decided to go with prop house, and all the same pain points that basically caused Seneca to want to create prop house in the first place for Nouns were the same reasons why On-Chain Monkey looked for the infrastructure for their DAO. There was too much friction. It was too complicated to get proposals up, to get them passed. And essentially it was just a blocker to being able to employ the treasury in a meaningful way. And so they were able to just hit the ground running and use prop house, and they're on round 2 now and just loving it. So pretty cool to see that being replicated across different DAOs with different communities, but the same needs ultimately.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. We'll chat.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love Dick Toads.
Yeah, I got myself a Dick Toady.
Very cool.
I got myself a Dick Toady Hawk. He's pretty cool.
Nice.
If you don't know Dick Toads, it's pretty neat. It's a project where you can actually go in once you have a mint pass, and you can create your own Dick Toad by using like drag and dropping all the different traits, and then you can mint the NFT at the end. So it's kind of like
it's such a cool interface.
It's like Build-A-Bear, but for NFTs, and way cooler. I
haven't built mine yet. I gotta build a Dick Toadshi.
What are you doing, Coach? What are you doing with your life?
I think we had a little bit too much fun because, like, you can pick which body type you want. If you want a toad's body or a dick butt body, and we have over 1,000 traits on either side. So we just like went nuts adding in traits and having fun with that. So
what could go wrong?
Really,
right?
It's something else. You just hit the random button and
and we're neighbors in the metaverse. So if you see us next door to the Noun Square plot in voxels, it's right next to us. It's awesome.
Yeah, right next door.
You guys
Family.
post the link in the chat. It's just too much. It's too fun of a website. I really mean that. You could really hit the randomizer just for hours and just see the most hilarious and cool things. I don't even know how you could want to mint just one. And then you could also just like actually choose the traits that you want. But I had to definitely hit randomizer for a really long time to see what traits there even were. I love it. You guys did such an awesome job.
Thank you so much. And maybe we can post. We'll post some information about the voxels and stuff as well.
Cool.
We're
Yes.
just gonna have a.
Send a link for anyone who's into voxels. It's pretty cool to see what Super Tight Woody's built. He's got a couple plots there with some really interesting Nounish buildings.
Yeah, put lots of love in that too. So hey, thanks for the shout out and the kind words about the project. That's why we do it. Thank you.
Yeah, I was telling Kerm about the Nouncil, and that's like kind of goes back to the the how do we get exposure for our proposal or our idea, and kind of where to go first when you come in the Discord. I think that the Nouncil is a really great resource for people just for ideas or information, or if you have ideas, there's a lot of people in there that will respond, and we're really active in there. So don't be shy if you guys want to come on in.
And it can be a little less overwhelming than going right into general and not knowing, if you're going to get a good reception, blah, blah, blah. We're super friendly. Not that they're not friendly in general, they are too, but it can be just a little bit less overwhelming to drop in an Nouncil and say hi and get into the community that way.
I have a strange practical question. You use POAP a lot, and I was wondering what the effective cost would be. I just had a prop come to me on this call, and I was wondering about carrying around an active POAP to give to people to noun build them with. So what kind of cost is associated with setting up something in the neighborhood of maybe 500 units or?
So POAPs are free, so they're a separate Web3 organization to Nouns, but they, it's basically proof of attendance protocol, and it is free to set up an event and to give away the NFTs. The blockchain that they use is not Ethereum, so it's very low cost, and so they send it on their own chain. Is it XDAI, I think, if I'm not mistaken? Anyway, so they are free. Having said that, they are sometimes strict about whether your event is an event. So like passing them out as business cards, I don't know if that would work as one-off POAPs. You might be better off, minting an open edition on Zora or something and passing them out that way. But yeah, so cost-wise, what's that?
I can comment on that.
Sure.
Actually, if you can use them as a sort of business card if it is at a specific event. So if you're doing something like like for NFT NYC, I had one where it's like you met Robot Fish Girl at NFT NYC because that was for a specific period of time.
Right.
If it's just I have a bunch of these for this month and I'm just not doing anything, it's just for whoever I talk to, that's probably not going to be approved. But if it's like, I'm going to this specific thing, then that's when it'll be okay to use.
Unless you're Patricio, he has his I met Patricio POAP, but
yeah. But I don't even know if my POAP would have been approved because Patricio just took my phone and did it manually.
At NFT NYC. But yeah, so that answers your question. Hopefully Symbiotech is that it is technically free, but it's not, they won't approve everything. And so that's one option. There's also alternatives to do low cost minting on Zora, or even using something like Manifold. So these are all options you could look into.
Yeah, give it some time too. They'll also the POAP curation team is really good about that. If your POAP is not approved, they will tell you why, and they will tell you what you need to fix in order to get it approved. Or if the whole concept, they will tell you if the concept isn't something that they can approve. So yeah, give it like a month in advance or a couple weeks at least, and you'll be fine.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, time for maybe one more question. We'll wrap up here at 3:30 EST either way. Anyone else have one final thing that they'd like to get off their chest here before we call it a day?
I did put in the chat a reminder. There is going to be a space tomorrow. 4156 has started holding these things he's calling stand-up spaces. It's not stand-up comedy yet, but at this point in time, stand-up sort of just meaning they're kind of these quicker 30-minute spaces where a builder is highlighted and gets to talk with the community about maybe questions that they have or problems that they've run into or successes that they've had, and have an open discussion about that. So tomorrow, Toady is actually being featured on that space. So
Along
there was
with,
a fantastic space today with Sam Ellis and Juan about compostables.wtf. So that was really informative. I think if you go to 4156, it wasn't recorded.
Composables.
Darn.
Yeah, it wasn't recorded, but I did ask if you could record it tomorrow because I think people would like to watch these in other time zones. So it's Noun 142 and myself are going to be joining tomorrow. The idea of these stand-ups is to try to solve some problems that builders are having as they're building nounish things. And at the Noun Square, we've been pushing into some new verticals lately over the past month, doing more video content and pushing into being more of a platform for other communities with our SoapBox initiative. So we kind of just want to do a temperature check, both from the Nounders and from the community on what we're doing and what we should focus on and what we should let fall to the wayside, if anything. So that's slated for tomorrow. It'll be exciting.
Very exciting. The space link is definitely there. Make sure you RSVP. I just think this is the same sort of crowd that would really appreciate a space like that. It's going to be a little bit more informative, a little less air horn. Not that air horn is bad, but it'll be in the morning and you'll get to hear a different side of the Noun Square and Noun O'Clock and sort of maybe future plans that we have going on there.
Yeah,
So
if we
that
bring
would-
the air horn, something tells me we won't be invited back on the specific
I know.
spaces.
Trust me, my finger's on the button the whole time, just waiting for the right moment. But
Awesome.
not tomorrow. We'll let you slide, Toady. But you gotta. A Robot Fish Girl did say it's not stand-up comedy, but the guest is literally Toady Hawk, which is hilarious. So
Well, the good thing
we'll
is
have to figure out.
I will be sitting, so it should be no problem.
Okay. Well, there you go.
There it is.
There it is, folks.
All right.
If you
Any
want
final
more jokes like this, please join that space tomorrow.
Oh God, they're gonna turn in. I'm gonna be like super serious, Toady. Okay. So any other questions? Final call for questions, either from Twitter or from Discord. Discord, just unmute your mic. Twitter, you got to type super fast and type your question out as a response to the pinned tweet in the next minute. We need the Jeopardy music.
Oh, yeah, it'd be perfect. I was thinking the same thing.
And yet you didn't have it ready. Disappointed. What the heck is that?
Not Jeopardy.
That's just gonna put us all to sleep. That's counterproductive. You tried. All right. Any final call here for any more questions? We've had lots of great ones today, so it's okay if we don't have any more. I think we've covered a lot of ground. But if anyone has something
Yes, thank
super
you, guys.
pressing. All right. I think that's it, Toshi. I think people have
Thank you guys
had their
so much.
fill for 1 week. So we'll
Wow, that was great.
call it a
Love to
day,
say
call it a
it.
week. Thank you for joining us on Discord. Thank you for joining us, those who joined on Twitter. I'm also recording this and we'll be putting it up on the Noun Square YouTube and sharing it as well for anyone who might have missed, or if there's something that you missed during the show that you want to go back and listen back to, you'll be able to do that as well.
Fantastic show. Thank you guys. Lots of great content.
Amazing. Thank you guys. Thanks, Toshi.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you to the ghost of 9999 who's always with us.
Thank you, 99.
Bye, everyone. Have a good day.